Robin Wong borrowed my GR3X and right away he found dust on the sensor. Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto and I'm a photographer, and I also have a problem. My Ricoh GR3 and 3X, they have dust spots on the sensor. And in this video I'm gonna share my thoughts on this issue regarding my GRs and also regarding other cameras. I have never seen any dust in any of the pictures that I have shot on my GR3 or 3X, but then Robin Wong borrowed my GR3X and right away he found dust on the sensor. He was trying to create some sun stars and shot into the sun at f16, and there it was, some dust spots on the sensor. Let's first talk about the dust problem in general. It really started to be a major problem with digital cameras. Of course, it was a minor problem with film cameras too, but because in the film camera you move the film after each frame or shot, the dust has no time to accumulate on one single frame as it does on digital camera, because the sensor is the same from the first shot to the last shot in your camera. With large format cameras like 4x5 for example, it was a little bit more serious problem. You had to be really careful when you loaded your film holders, so you would not also put some dust on the film surface while you were loading those holders. And in the dark room, dust was always more or less a problem, but it was never really a problem in a 35mm camera or in a medium format film camera. And every digital camera has the dust issue. It's not just the GR, but with a fixed lens camera like the GR3 or 3X or any other fixed lens camera, the problem is that you cannot clean the sensor unless you dismantle the camera. But that is of course beyond the capabilities of most of us, and even if we could do that, it would be very time consuming to take the camera apart every time you want to clean the sensor. With a system camera, whether it's DSLR or mirrorless, you can always take off the lens, expose the sensor and then clean the sensor. You can use the cleaning function in your camera, but if that doesn't help, you have to clean the sensor manually. And whenever you start cleaning it manually, you run a risk of damaging something. If you blow air on the sensor, that is relatively safe. But if you go very close with your blower, you can still damage the sensor. And some dust can be, or dirt can be, very persistent, and it doesn't come off with just compressed air. And as soon as you start touching the sensor or poking the sensor, there's much more risk for some kind of damage. You can of course pay for someone else to clean your sensor, but that's gonna cost you money, and maybe the service is not available where you live. And if you have to ship out your camera to be cleaned, that's gonna be a major downside, because your camera is going to be out of service, out of use for days or maybe even weeks. Besides, the dust will always come back. Please take a good look at your camera sensor right now. Take a test picture, use the highest f number, the minimum focusing distance, and take a picture of a white wall and see what you can find. So there's no magic trick that makes the dust problem disappear, no matter what camera you have. So I tested my Ricoh GR3 and the 3X. These results are from the GR3, but the same applies to GR3X. I took pictures of a white wall at various apertures at minimum focusing distance, because the minimum focusing distance makes the dust appear sharper. And it looks like the dust is only visible at higher f numbers than 5.6. So what does that mean in real life? I checked 1,000 pictures, approximately 1,000 pictures that I have shot on my GR3 and GR3X cameras, and only 10 2 times 5. 10 pictures of those 1000 were shot at higher f number than 5.6. That is 1%. And the dust only shows up at higher f numbers than 5.6 if the dust spot happens to be in the right place in the frame. Even in this picture shot at f16, it's really difficult to see where the dust is unless you know exactly where to look. With the GR3 and 3X, it's almost never necessary to go beyond f5.6. The lens delivers its best performance between f2.8 wide open, f2.8 and f5.6. And there is enough depth of field for almost any situation already at f5.6. And any higher aperture number would only add diffraction and make the picture look less sharp. And if you use the P mode and auto ND filter, the camera actually never goes beyond f5.6 unless you force it. So those Ricoh engineers were smart enough to design the P mode or the P mode programming to keep the lens at its peak performance regarding the aperture range. On Ricoh GR3 and 3X you can customize the program line so that the camera either prefers the maximum smallest aperture value or maximum depth of field. But if you use the normal mode or normal program line, then the camera prefers to stay at f5.6 or smaller f numbers. I'm not trying to say that this dust issue with the GR is not real, but I'm trying to say that it's not unique to the GR. Every digital camera has dust issues to some extent. Maybe the GR3 or 3X or other GRs are more prone to dust than some other cameras. But I'm also sure that because of its nature as a high quality point and shoot pocketable camera, many Ricoh GRs also spend a lot of time in some suspicious environments like jeans pockets, coat pockets or something similar that are usually also collecting a lot of dust or lint or whatever, so that can easily end up on the sensor of the camera. And you would necessarily not keep other types of cameras like your system camera in the same kind of environment. And like I said at the beginning, I have never noticed this dust problem in my photographs until my good friend Robin made me aware of this problem and I started testing my cameras. And I'm not going to stop using my Ricoh GRs because of this. I'm sure there are many people who are willing to lose their sleep only if they know there's dust on the sensor, even if it never shows up in any of their pictures. But I'm not like that. I don't care if there is a couple of dust spots on the sensor as long as they are not showing up in my photos. But I also think that in the future, if there's going to be another Ricoh GR model, maybe Ricoh should pay a little bit more attention to this problem and try to make the camera more dust proof or dust resistant. But even that would not guarantee that there could never be a dust spot on the sensor, because no camera is 100% airtight. So there you have it, my thoughts on the dust issue regarding the GR3 and GR3X cameras. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was helpful. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider buying me a cup of coffee. There's a link down below for that if you don't live in Finland. Thank you so much, and I'll definitely see you in the next one.